Good morning. We are at the Martins Woods State Natural Area in Waukesha County. And I'm coming in from the parking lot. So we're starting off on kind of an edge habitat here. I see a handful of like weedy and invasive plants here. There is a common buckthorn in front of me here. We've got a dandelion right there. Should be pretty easy to identify a dandelion. And I expect as we get farther in, we'll probably see more plants that are maybe more characteristic of a rare habitat site. This is a really special place and gets a little more special as you get closer in. The trees above me, I don't know if I can identify them all, but I have some saplings nearby, and I can identify this as a linden, so genus Tilia, sorry. The heart-shaped leaves, alternate leaves. Fairly distinctive, so heart-shaped leaves with toothed margins, sometimes with that uneven leaf base, but not always. All right, so let's get in and see what we can see here. There's a few plants already on the understory that we saw before at the other site. So again, this kind of habitat is distinctive of this time of year. It's a good one to go to catch plants in flower. These are going to be a lot of spring ephemeral plants. And they're flowering because they're in the understory of a moist, deciduous woods. So they have good access to water, and at this time of year they have access to light that is not going to stick around for the rest of the season. So down here I can see another one, a little bit more, I guess, a little bit like heart-shaped, kind of drifting over to maybe more like a kidney shape at the base. Just even that leaf shape is very distinctive of this plant. It's very distant relative from a lot of other plants that we have in the state. This is in that family Aristolochiaceae, and this is the plant called wild ginger. I can recognize it just from the leaves. This grows by a rhizome, and you can kind of tell just the rhizomatous growth has given us all these leaves here. They may be just a few individuals that have managed to spread underground. And we'll look for some flowers in here. The flowers are kind of well hidden. There's one down there. So there's flowers of these. This is one of those that's kind of in a group that branches off at near the base of the dicot group. So this has 3 perianth parts. Kind of funny flowers. There are actually sepals are the showy part of the perianth, and the petals are kind of gone from here. And then they're held at the ground level. So kind of a nice attractive feature for more like scavenging insects to come in and pollinate. Another one that we didn't talk about before is a plant that's easily recognized by its leaves, and it'll produce flowers, but not this time of year, not just yet. We're a few weeks ahead of when this plant produces its flowers. It's called water leaf, and its scientific name actually tracks to that. It's Hydrophyllum, and it's related to its close relative of Boraginaceae. I think we're actually in Boraginaceae these days. Depends on who you ask. And I guess the feature that helps you identify this is compound leaf and toothy margins, but really the thing that stands out are these whitish dots on here. So that's part of the natural pigmentation in this plant. And you can kind of see it to varying degrees on these different leaves. Another one, we're also near the edge here, can see another one of these invasive plants. This is one of our honeysuckles. So if you remember, we had opposite simple leaves with entire margins. And for me, they just have kind of a soft feel. These have kind of a hairy feel as well. And just a little bit too early for flowers on this one, although this time of year I've already seen some honeysuckles in flower. So we might actually see some honeysuckle flower if we keep looking today. Over in this zone, I see a group of shrubs in a shrubby group that we covered. So these are gooseberries in the genus Ribes, Grossulariaceae. And I don't see the flowers on this one, but we do see, I guess, some genus characteristics. So some of these plants, not all of them, prickly on the stems, and then also some a little bit different kind of prickle, associated with the nodes on there. So a little bit, sorry, I'm not focusing very well. A little bit stiffer, thicker, I should say just thicker spines associated with these nodal bursts of growth. So that's going to be a sort of a side shoot growth this year. The flowers here on Gracilary Acer ribes, these have inferior ovaries, so you can see sometimes the flowers are a little bit odd. They've got a fused perianth. It's kind of a cup there. This one's open, a pendant flower. And then you can see this round bit below the perianth. That's the ovary, so an inferior ovary. And this species has a prickly ovary as well. That is one of the features that helps you identify it. So this one, probably more prickly than most on the gooseberries. And then the other feature that's helpful for these is just the leaf shape. So kind of a common leaf shape, maybe gets you thinking about Rose Ace, but a few of the flower features don't match up with Rose Ace. Another one right here. This is sedge. We've got quite a few sedges, and we'd probably have to get this into a key to identify it well. But we saw before sedges in the other location. The spikelets on here, this one's separated into male spikelets producing pollen, and pretty early development of a female spikelet there. Looks like it's still got its stigmas out receiving pollen. So quite a few of these around. This is one plant that's producing lots of reproductive stalks. And then I've seen a few of this same species around also nearby. All right, so let's get some walking going. Dun, 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 dun. So much to choose from. All right, a few other shrubs here. This one we saw at the last location. And this one has leaves out. I don't see the flowers right now. So we might see another individual that's got flowers on here. This is that prickly ash. So not an ash, but actually in the citrus family. And a few features that would distinguish it from actual ash are the alternate phyllotaxis and the presence of these spines at the nodes. And then the flower is very different, of course, but it's similar to ash in having pinnately compound leaves. And then also being in the citrus family, this one's a little bit smelly. We didn't get a chance to cover one of these before, but this is a dogwood leafing out now. So if you remember, a lot of our dogwoods have opposite phyllotaxis. And this one appears to be alternate. So that's exciting. I just want to triple check myself on this here. Yeah, pretty sure that's alternate leaved. So that's handy because we have a distinctive species, the alternate leaved dogwood. I could tell this is a dogwood because of the leaf venation mostly. So this is that arcuate venation. It's basically a pinnate venation, but the veins come out and then angle towards the tip, giving it a really characteristic dogwood leaf venation. So mostly our dogwoods are opposite leaves. This one's got alternate leaves. To know that they're alternate, I wanted to look at other places on the stem besides where these leaves are coming out. The new growth, a lot of times you get the leaves clustered together. And on the older growth portions of the stem, that can tell you a little bit better the pattern that was laid down by the full growth of the previous years. So like at this node here, I see one side branch coming out, and I don't see any scars on the opposite side of that branch as to where other branches would have come out. So if it was truly opposite branching, it would have had branches coming out from both sides of the stem at that point. All right, cool stuff getting started here. Marching in. So some of these plants I can identify just by, I guess, experience, being able to identify them without their reproductive features, but a lot of them we do have reproductive features that help us identify them this time of year. Down, lower down to the herbaceous layer now. Got a nice example of our Jack in the Pulpit. So Jack in the Pulpit family Araceae. We don't have a lot of Araceae in the state. And this is one of them. This inflorescence is very distinctive even among Araceae. So it's built on that spathe and spadix model. So the flowers are on this fat spike here. And then this is a modified bract, in this case very highly modified, to kind of a surrounding feature at the lower part, and then up the upper part of that bract, kind of covering over the top. So it's a shelter. It's shielded from rain, I suppose. And then, of course, the business of this inflorescence is down inside of it. You can see the flowers there. So those are look to be male flowers producing, ready to release their pollen not too long from now. And then this upper part, not sure what its function is, but there's not really any flowering structures on this part of the spike, so I'll have to look into that one. While we're down in the herbaceous layer, a few other ones over in this zone. I don't know how many we're going to see of these at this site. I don't typically see too many. We've got some more of the Dutchman's breeches there. Get that in focus. So that was family Papaveraceae, the poppy family, formerly Fumariaceae. It's very distinctive fused corolla flower form, and then the leaves are pretty deeply divided there. Also down in this layer is one of those a few of those spring beauty Claytonia, family Montiaceae. So these are its kind of fleshy linear leaves, and then the elongated raceme inflorescence with the younger flowers at the top and the older flowers developing fruits lower down. And a feature that's helpful for this one is the two sepals. And that was a feature, this one used to be classified in Portulacaceae, and that's a feature of that family as well. So they're kind of share a feature, even though they're now classified in separate families. One of the things I got to watch out for while I'm down on the ground here is this site does have a decent amount of poison ivy, and here's a good chance to look at poison ivy just coming up early in the year. So at the tip of my finger there is a 3-parted poison ivy leaf. Right now it's bent down, it's still developing, so it's not really, the leaves haven't fully unfurled yet, but those are gonna spread out. If you catch them early in the season, they're much more reddish, a little bit more of a waxy color to them, waxy sheen. And really at any stage, kind of unfortunate, just about any stage, the poison ivy is able to give you a rash if you are susceptible to that. All right, how many species are we up to? Who's keeping track? Here's one down here. This is a violet, so probably just a wood violet. So it's pretty easy to identify flowers of the violet. They're bilaterally symmetrical, 5 petals, and then they have this nectar spur sticking off to the back. Try to get that from the side a little bit better. And then the leaves, pretty common, this kind of leaf, so heart-shaped or kidney-shaped, pretty common, with like a wavy crenate margin on there. All right, we haven't gone too far, so let's see if we can get farther in here. That one surprised me a little bit. I think what we're looking at here, it's tough when you commit this to a video that everybody can watch. Feel free to correct me. I think we're looking at a Greenbrier, genus Smilax. So this umbel of flower buds there, the leaf venation that's parallel, and alternate phyllotaxis. So this would be one that is capable of growing as a vine. I'm not used to seeing it come out this early in the year, but maybe I haven't been paying attention. So that's exciting. One that I don't normally notice here. A couple more that are ones we've seen before. This is the Prairie Trillium. So whorl of 3 leaves and mostly parallel venation, and then lots of 3s. So three sepals down here, 3 red petals, 6 stamens, so a multiple of 3. The stamens are pretty well covering the pistil in the center, which has three stigmas on it. Don't know if that's coming through for you. Right next to that one, another one that we saw before. This is in the mustard family. This is the cut leaf tooth wart. So pretty uncommon, I'd say, for plants in the mustard family to have this kind of leaf division, this deeply palmate leaf division. And then we've missed the flowers, but we're going on to produce these long capsule fruits. And that one is in the genus Cardamone right now. Used to be in Dentaria, toothwort. One of the ones that we often point out at this site, it's a little more fun to experience while you're here in person. This is a wild leek, genus Allium, so that's in the same genus as onions, garlic, culinary leeks, and these are all some variation of that oniony or garlicky smell. So down at the base, I think I'll probably leave it in there, but there's a bulb down at the base here. This time of year, they just produce these rather broad, but still parallel veined leaves. And then later in the season, as the summer wears on, the leaves will die back, and then they'll put up the flowers and do their sexual reproduction at that time. So a little bit different phases, taking advantage of light availability now. And then later, when the light is not so important, they use their stored energy to make the flowers. All right. I'm gonna point this one out while it's here. We might see some in flower. This is a wild geranium just getting together right now. So flower buds. Those are the tips of the sepals, actually. They're pointy there, almost look like reproductive parts coming out. Geranium flowers, or sorry, leaves are pretty distinctive. So palmately veined, palmately lobed, also toothed around the edges. And when those flowers open, they're a nice kind of pink color. One at the ground level that's coming up a lot like the poison ivy did. This one in the grape family. This is Parthenocyssus. And that's a plant that has palmately compound leaves. We don't see palmately compound too often, so that can be pretty distinctive. This is a woody vine, so that's one of the ways that poison ivy also can grow. But of course, having 5 leaflets would separate this from poison ivy. The leaflet shape is different. But you can just kind of see here, this one's got a woody base, and the new growth is coming out. That's a long petiole, but there'll be some stem growth as well. Give that plant a chance to try climbing up its neighbors. All right, moving on. All right. Not another one without open flowers. And I think we'll probably be able to find one that's got open flowers. Nope, never mind. One open flower. That'll work for us. This is the blue cohosh. We saw this at the last site as well. Genus is Caulophyllum, family Berberidaceae, the barberry family. So we're going to see, I think, a few members of the Buttercup family that look a bit like this one with the deeply compound leaves. So twice compound, twice compound. And then flowers that don't fit the dicot multiples of 4 or 5. This one's got 1, 2, a little bit weird. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, so 6 perianth parts on there. But still a dicot, just not in the deeper group of eudicots. Let's go back up to the trees here. We got a shrub. A shrub that's capable of becoming a tree. Member of the rose family. This is a, maybe a cherry. So there's one of the things I wanted to point out is there's a fungal, it's called root knot fungus, I think. So it makes this kind of, looks like burnt, kind of fat burnt bits along the stem. That's a fungus, and that can be one of the features that helps you to identify our cherry. So this could be a black cherry or maybe a related plant. Family Rosaceae has serrate margins, and then here we've got pinnate venation and big stipules. Might not stick around for the whole year, but those are coming out of the leaf base. Pretty substantial stipules there. And down to the ground level again. Here's our first member of the Buttercup family. So Buttercup family, also Buttercup genus Ranunculus. It's kind of, I don't know how well it's coming through on here. Buttercups have this shiny feature on their petals. So it's glistening, reflecting the sun pretty nicely there. And then other features that would tell us it's Ranunculaceae. We've got sepals present, petals present. I wanted to say 5 petals, but it looks like we're exceeding our number of petals there. I usually think of this one having 5 petals. Let's go. When in doubt, find a different one. All right, here's one. So same species now, 5 petals, lots of stamens, lots of separate carpels, 5 sepals. So member of Buttercup genus. We got quite a few of those in the genus. So open flowers, and then also these plants that get started, they get really started. So this one has already gone and produced on its way to producing fruits on there already. So those are going to become achenes, an aggregate of achenes in the location where the flower was. Just above, this one won't be flowering right now, but this is one of our, probably a black raspberry. So genus Rubus, the same genus that has blackberries, raspberries. I guess I'll skip talking about that for much detail. All right, getting a little bit thicker to walk through here. That's exciting. It's like one of those movies, isn't it impressive to do everything in one take? It's gonna be the one take botany trip. All right, found a geranium flower. So same features as that other geranium, of course, same species. This is the wild geranium in Wisconsin, Geranium maculatum. Palmately lobed leaves with teeth, and then the flower. These flowers are kind of cool. They're phased to be male separately at a different time than they have their female function. So this one has, looks like stamens are maturing, and at the center there's that green kind of spike. That's the pistil, but it hasn't made its style, it hasn't made its stigma available yet. So it's only receiving pollen right now. I'm sorry, only distributing pollen as the stamens are mature, and then later it'll be able to receive pollen as the stigmas mature. All right, here's some May apple, also Berberidaceae, and I think I talked about these before. They've got 2 different kinds of leaves. Sometimes, here's one, sometimes just a single leaf in a vegetative state, and then other times they've got paired leaves, and then between the paired leaves is a single flower there. So extra leaf that I'm not used to seeing. Here's one. All right, so 2 leaves, and then in between them where they meet is a single flower. That's going to continue developing, and when it's open it actually kind of hangs down a little bit in the space between them. Here's one of our prickly ash with flowers on it. Looks like we're doing more of a, what did I say? I think that's more male function. All right. Aha! So we had prickly ash, and now we have actual ash. So just at this developmental stage, I can tell this has opposite leaves. So pinnately compound leaf, here, there, and then they meet together to be opposite. Again, this is going to be growing out to be a side branch, so we have a pair of leaves, another pair of leaves, and all of that's going to extend. The stem's going to expand between them, and they're going to be separated by quite some space. And then just another illustration of sometimes it can be tricky to know that you actually have opposite phyllotaxis. So I'm holding the main stem here, and the side branch comes off only one at a time. And on the other side, kind of faint. But you know, looking for it, expecting it to be there, there's a scar where there would have been a leaf and maybe a branch for a little while in a previous year, but now the only branch remaining is here. So it was opposite, still counts as opposite. Here's another one, it was opposite. There's a little more clearly a scar of what was left behind, but kind of a little bit elusive if you're trying to find evidence on this plant of it being opposite phyllotaxis. Here's a good example of actual two intact branches being opposite from each other. All right, so I'm sure we're going to find a lot more of these as we go, but maybe I'll just introduce them as we run into them. Here's another one of our trilliums. So trillium, big among the spring ephemerals and some of the more charismatic spring ephemeral plants we have. And this one obviously different from the red petaled trillium. This one's got bright white petals, but still 3 whorled leaves, 3 sepals, 3 petals, 6 stamens, 3 fused carpels. And this one, before I messed with it, here's one I haven't messed with yet. The flower is drooping down. So this one's called the Nodding Trillium. And that just presents the flower in a way that some pollinators find attractive and other pollinators might not notice it. Next to that one, another one of our invasives. There's a garlic mustard there. So still kind of early season. This will, the reproductive inflorescence is going to expand as time goes on, but you can see we've got flowers with 4 petals each. If I got in there, I would see those 6 stamens that belong to the flowers. And then if you get this in person, of course, the garlic mustard has a pretty distinctive smell. It's aptly named, so it's in the mustard family and smells like garlic or kind of oniony. All right, lots more wild ginger underfoot. Coming in, coming in, coming in. I've been passing a few of our maples, so again in the woody plants layer here. Maple, another one that's got opposite phyllotaxis. So getting in there, you can see these 2 leaves across from each other, the next 2 leaves across from each other. That distinctive maple leaf shape. They're taking a little while to stiffen up, but that's a pretty distinctive maple leaf shape. Looks like we're probably a sugar maple in this location. A few of those above us. Lots of the same. So it's kind of nice once you go through a habitat and you start seeing the same species over and over again. I don't know, you start feeling comfortable, like, all right, I've pretty well identified what I can through here, and I'm just going to keep noticing what I've seen and keeping my eyes open for new things that I haven't seen yet. Here's a good example. All right, so I talked about the wild leek. This is more wild leek in here, and what I stopped to notice is what I think is the leftover, so just the dead inflorescence of one of these wild leeks from a previous year. So it just came right out of the ground. It's no longer attached. Everything's dead. But this is the umbel inflorescence of the leek, which is pretty common in the onion group, that kind of inflorescence. Another plant that we're not going to see in flower too soon, but this is one of our understory monocots. We've got a couple that look very similar to each other. We've got one called Solomon Seal and one called False Solomon Seal. And really, to have good confidence on those, I'd say you need to get some flowers growing before you could say you got one or the other. So Not sure just yet. I'd go probably false Solomon seal on this one, but it is a monocot, so parallel venation, alternate phyllotaxis. One to come back for. All right, so we hit a little bit different habitat here. There's a probably a water feature depending on what the rain conditions are. It's been kind of rainy this week, but nothing wet right now. I see another one that has shown up just here. I didn't notice it before, so this could be one that prefers it a little bit wetter. The false mermaid weed. This was our, it's got a fun name, Flurkia. Flurkia proserpinicoides. The flowers are very tiny on this one. The whole plant's pretty tiny, and it's one you might not even notice if you don't know what you're looking for. It's almost like a mossy kind of thing. And it's next to, this is a different member of the onion group. So I don't know which one it would be, but there's an inflorescence contained within this bract here. Much different from the wild leek, which had wide leaves. This one's got more, much narrower leaves, kind of rolled up, a little bit fatter. And if you want, you could grab these and smell them. And pretty much everything in the onion group has some form of oniony smell. So it could just be the wild onion. You're on your way to a soup right here. Let's see, I thought I saw something else in this area, but I don't right now, so we will keep going. All right, we're starting to get some new leaves. So these are compound leaves, and we saw compound leaves like this in the blue cohosh. Those had more pointy tips on them, and these are rounded at the leaflet tips. So I think we're probably looking at a member of Buttercup family, and good chance we'll see that in flower once we get to a better spot to see that. I get to explore more stuff when I've got all this time on my hands. This one I can tell from the leaf shape. I don't know if I could describe exactly why this makes me think about the family, but family Urticaceae. So the nettle family, nettle family. You can see along the stem, good dose of those hairs on there. So these are stiff hairs that are hollow on the inside, and they contain a stinging chemical that, if you get it under your skin, can give you a little irritation. As much as anything, I kind of find it to be an interesting novelty to get stung by these plants. I'm kind of surprised I haven't really been pierced by them. Maybe my skin's tougher than it used to be. But I'm going to expose maybe my... There we go, got a little bit. I'm going to rub the little more delicate inner part of my arm on there. Still not, right now I hardly notice that that's happening. So maybe we'll check back on the skin later and see if I've got any raised bits. Of the things to worry about in nature, I'm much more worried about poison ivy than I am stinging nettles. But I guess all around, if you can avoid getting abused by a plant, that generally is a better way to be. All right, we'll follow our water course for a little while here. Not seeing much new just yet. Here's one that's going to be a little more abundant in the wetter places around here. This is our skunk cabbage. And skunk cabbage is also family Araceae, so same family as Jack in the Pulpit. This is one that produces its inflorescences very early in the year. So early that they make their own heat and they can melt their way through the snow. So I can recognize the leaves. If you remember, we talked about Araceae having this rolled up leaf tip. It's kind of subtle, and maybe it's only there if you're looking for it. But there's that kind of drip tip feature at the tip of these rather big leaves. Skunk cabbage, so cabbage kind of maybe calling to mind these really big leaves. And then the skunky part is more in the, crush these up, they've got a, got too close to smelling that one. A little bit of a skunk cabbage smell on that. Above that one is another member of the maple genus. This one looks a little beat up by bugs. Kind of interesting. So this is in the genus Acer, the same genus as maples, but it has compound leaves. So I might have to take one of these off to really show it. Boop. This one is compound with 3 leaflets, so fully compound there. For me, this one, especially in the early season, is easier to identify knowing about this green stem, so that's kind of common. Opposite phyllotaxis there. And I've seen others of this species. This is the box elder is its common name, so it doesn't have maple as the common name, but it's related to maples. And I've seen other ones of that group flowering this time of year. So maybe if we get a bigger one or just a different one, maybe we'll see some flowers on one of those. I'm having some regrets about the stinging nettle that I rubbed myself all over. I don't see any evidence here, but I suspect we'll get there soon enough. It's kind of an itchy burny sensation. Not anything I'm gonna panic about. So it tends to be like a strong sensation and then it goes away. And sometimes it comes back as itchy. Starts off being a little more on the painful side and comes back as the itchy. So it's not common. So here's some more. Here's some more of it. I'm going to keep my distance from. So it's not the common stinging nettle, but it could be a wood nettle or something like that. The phyllotaxis in this group is sometimes opposite, sometimes alternate. This one's coming out as alternate. So if it is the wood nettle, that's the one that I found to be a little bit more stingy than the common nettle. Dun-dun-dun-dun. All right, whole bunch of buttercup. I don't know if you can see that down there. Shrubs in this area, lots of prickly ash at the moment. Heading over to a different part of the wet. So this is an area, the ground's kind of cleared a little bit here. I suspect this was wetter for more of the spring season, and so it's kind of inhibited the plant growth in this area. Some nice tufts of sedge. So these are produced by sedges. Good chance of a different species than what we saw before. Not too much to notice right now. I see what I think are some stigmas sticking out. If you roll this around in your fingers, it's got that triangular feel to remind you you've got a sedge. Yeah, pretty early in reproduction, so I don't know if that'd probably even be hard to identify with a key at this time of year. All right, so if this is the remnant part of a wet area, we might see more of that skunk cabbage. Nope, nothing. All right, gotta keep the content going. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. Here's one of those parallel veined monocots. I thought we had some flower buds there, but they're just so faint. I don't know if those even are flower buds right now. All right, oh, a whole bunch, here we go. We found a whole bunch of skunk cabbage, so this might help us out a little bit for a good chance we can find some leftover inflorescences of skunk cabbage. Maybe, I say good chance, I don't always find them. All right, so now we've got actual moist, mucky soil right now. So it's straight up wet right now. There's a little bit of standing water farther down. And a new plant here is one that's much more in wet areas. This is it's called the Marsh Marigold. So it's in the Buttercup family. And this one has gone all the way to, it looks like all the individuals are already at fruiting. So these are separate carpels. These, in this case, they're going to develop as follicles. So they're dehiscent with more than one seed inside. Over here, we'll try to find a good example of the skunk cabbage inflorescence. Here's a probably not so good example. It's like straight up rotten down there. Hey, take apart the rotten bit of the skunk cabbage. So this, I don't know, I feel like I don't see these develop into fruits, but maybe I'm just not looking for the right thing. So the bract, this big bract here, the spathe, and then inside is the spadex. Maybe I'll just take that, try it out a little bit. It's got much more of a pretty compact ball right there. And so those are what happened after the flowers, and I suppose they'll develop into fruits. I don't know if I've ever stuck around long enough for that. As long as I mentioned the Marsh Marigold, we'll go back to another Marsh Marigold here. And this one's got some open flowers, so we see lots of examples of those fruits still developing, and then the flowers. A lot of them are losing petals. Here's one that's got all of its petals still intact. So very much like the Buttercup, still kind of shiny yellow color. 5 petals, lots of stamens, separate carpels. And here we got, sorry, my camera's not doing very well. We got no sepals on this one. All right, I'm in the muck. Kind of going for broke today and pointing out everything I can. So another one we got in here, get a little bit closer to the edge, is one of our fern relatives. We got horsetails in here. So this is a horsetail, and pretty distinctive. So it's a cylindrical and hollow stem, and it's got what look like whorled leaves, but these are actually side branches. Just kind of a bizarre plant if you try to play by the rules of how you think plants should be put together. So these are actually side branches. They've got these little scale leaves on them, also in little, like a collar along the length, I think. Let's look down at the stem here. Here's some of those, kind of a collar of toothy leaves associated with the whorl there. Not all of our horsetails are so, I want to say leafy. Can I say leafy? Side branchy? Some of them are just like a spike. Just a spike with those teeny tiny leaves along the length of them. Saw another one that we saw at the last site. This is another mustard family. Looks like the same thing, but it looks like it is at a much different developmental stage. So this is, again, same genus as the toothwort. This is Cardamone, and just flower buds at this point. But I can just kind of recognize that based on the form of the leaf. I don't know, they kind of look like like a culinary cabbage, like a Napa cabbage. No, sorry, like a sort of like a bok choy leaf. I don't know. Maybe I know it's in the mustard family and I'm working backwards. All right, kind of a new territory here. I see a lot of white trillium, but they all seem to be the nodding kind, where the flower goes off to the side. We also should have the big white flowered trilliums. Those flowers are more erect. No shortage of plants here, at least. Lots of cool, just a really big abundance of native species. Just a wonderful habitat to explore. All right, checking the pulpits. Here's some more Dutchman's breeches in there. So kind of sheltered in a tree hollow, or a little clump of trees here. Seems to be where I find this plant a little bit more often. In and among them, one that we covered in class, this is family Rubiaceae, and its genus is called Gallium, or bedstraw. Very distinctive in having whorled leaves. Again, not very common to have whorls. And I saw a few of these earlier. I was avoiding talking about them because we didn't have flowers. Still don't really have flowers, but we're getting started. So you can see at the tip of this, it's producing flowers. Very tiny flowers. We've got quite a few species of the genus Gallium. And this one, I don't know if the camera is going to get it, but it's got some hooked hairs on there that sometimes will, actually this whole plant will grab onto you, and I suppose that could help it to disperse some seeds around. You know, we might not get flowers on this one today. This is one of our Buttercup family plants. Okay, I guess that'll count. This is the Meadow Roux in the genus Thalictrum. And this one is dioecious, so male or female plants. And they're just getting started, but this is a selection of male flowers. So what's sticking out from those perianth parts are a whole bunch of stamens, a whole bunch of big anthers ready to go. Not quite open yet. We might see some that are open. Usually, once you notice a plant, it seems like sometimes after a while I can then find them in flower. While I was down here, I also noticed another member of the Buttercup family. These are harder to notice when they're done flowering, but this was a Genus Anemone. So whorled leaves, 1, 2, 3 coming out together, and then each of those is compound into 3 parts. And so the leaves are pretty distinctive. That I could identify pretty much the genus with that. And then this is what's left of the flower. It's going on to produce its separate carpel fruits there. So anemone. And by golly, we might find some of these Thalictrum flowering. Keep your head up. Okay, here's another one. A little bit better state. And illustrating nicely the adaptation for wind pollination here. So dioecious plants and wind pollinated plants, often that's a feature that goes together. And this would be a plant that's got a lot of resources devoted to distributing pollen. So it produces pollen, lots of stamens, big anthers, and able to swing around in the breeze. That helps the pollen get out when the wind blows. There's another one. So these leaves down here belong to the wild leek, but the compound leaves kind of in the background belong to the Meadow Roux. Now I'm seeing a bunch, now that I'm closer to the ground level. If I remember right, this habitat, I seem to find a whole bunch of the male flowered Meadow Roux. I see a good collection of them around. I'm still looking for female flowers, and I don't know if I'm gonna get them. So more males. It's funny, I didn't notice them, and now I can't stop noticing flowering individuals of the Meadow Roux. Dun, 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 dun. So I don't know what the reason is why there are so many male individuals. Could be that their developmental stages are staggered, so the male plants produce flowers earlier. Could be another reason. But we sure have a lot of the Meadow Roux around. Da-da-dum. Stalking the Wildflowers. Normally we do this field trip and I separate the students out, and having so many different groups of eyes looking for plants really helps to find them. And I don't mind saying that sometimes the students find plants I did not notice. We're just about out of plants that I'm expecting to find here. Once in a while we get some Hepatica, kind of nice to see. We had those at the last site and they were already done even by that time. Here's one. I don't know much about identifying it to species, but I can tell some features that can tell me what family I'm looking at here. So you can see the flower buds there are being produced in an umbel. And we've got a just compound, I think. I was gonna say lobed, but I think we count as compound here. And the stem is round and kind of ribbed along its length. And this leaf there has a big sheathing leaf base, so it fattens and widens to surround a lot of the stem. So this is in family Apiaceae right here. Don't know what the species is, but when the flowers bloom, we probably could determine that. Quite a few members of Apiaceae in the region. Let's see, we pointed out the anemone before. Here's an anemone still in flower. So same species, I suspect. So sepals missing. Lots of stamens, lots of separate carpels, family Ranunculaceae. Same old, same old. All right. Here's another buttercup. So we got a handful of species. So there's some maple leaves at the base. Don't worry about those. This is one of the leaves that belongs to the buttercup. And they're kind of transitional along the stem. So this is a leaf coming out from the base, much more not divided. And then along the stem, divided into threes. And then farther up the stem, this is divided into these really narrow separate leaflets on there. And the flowers are not exciting. So there's a handful of species of buttercup that don't really have big petals. In fact, it's kind of embarrassing that those are petals at all. So there are sepals. The sepals are bigger than the petals. And those little yellow triangles, those are the petals. So I think this is the, I forget the common name, abortivus, Ranunculus abortivus. So that was the flower, and then kind of transitioning here through maturing carpels to pretty close to mature fruits right there. So not every buttercup has showy flowers. Over here we've got our bed straw now with some open flowers. So they're tiny, and they're commonly with 4 petals, inferior ovary. So this is a plant just in so many respects is one that you'd pretty easily identify. It's even got a square stem. So whorled leaves, small flowers with 4 petals, inferior ovary. Pretty easy to identify, at least the genus Gallium, if not species. The keys to species are pretty easy to work through for that group. we have one more Buttercup. It's got much different leaves along the stem than the abortivus that we just saw. So I'm not fully sure what to name this one right now, but also has very reduced petals on there. So gonna have to get some names on some of these. All right, I'm still looking for the Hepatica, and I'm losing confidence that I might find it. In my experience, they're often growing at the bases of trees, but you can only check so many trees, right? All right, so we are coming back to the location where they used to have parking. Used to be you had to park on the side of the highway to access this site. I think we've covered just about everything. Oh my gosh, one last one. Let's do one for finish. All right, so this is another distinctive leaf. This is the leaf of the bloodroot, Sanguinaria canadensis. So a member of the poppy family, Papaveraceae. Maybe not too different in overall shape to the wild ginger. This is another one, it's actually wild ginger is right behind it. Kind of overall shape pretty similar, but this one's got lobing, and it's just one leaf per individual. And these are spring active, spring ephemeral plants. And we've missed the flowering, but we've gone ahead and produced a fruit capsule there. It's a sad looking fruit capsule. I wonder if it didn't have successful reproduction this year. Let's check another one. There's another one without a great fruit on it, so don't know what happened with those. And let's give it a shot. This was Papaveraceae, one of those families that's got colorful sap. So that orangey bit, this is what gives it the name bloodroot. So I guess maybe some individuals a little more of the blood red color. This is kind of a bright orange. So that would be one way you maybe confirm that you've got this one. Not too many members of the Papaveraceae in the state. All right, well, I can see from the clock we're just about at an hour, and I think that was probably all the stuff we're gonna see. So hope you enjoyed this tour through Martin's Woods, and maybe with luck you'll get out here on your own sometime. This is probably the best time of year to come here, so give it a look sometime. All right, catch you later.